What if I told you that sitting right there in your kitchen is one simple ingredient that could quietly clean your arteries, lower your blood sugar, and protect your heart, without pills, without expensive treatments? And yet, most doctors never mention it. Harold was 72. Retired, widowed, and living peacefully in a small town in Kansas with his loyal golden retriever Buddy. For years, he followed every doctor's order. Pills for cholesterol, another for blood pressure, a third one for his creeping blood sugar. But despite it all, each checkup seemed to bring more bad news. One morning, while reading an old farmer's health magazine, Harold stumbled upon a curious little recipe about onions, turmeric, and olive oil. It sounded simple. Maybe it's even too simple. But at that point, Harold thought, why not? And that decision changed everything. Before we reveal Harold's full recipe, let's first understand why certain foods quietly work together like an army, protecting your heart, blood vessels, and sugar levels. These are the same 12 powerful foods Harold added into his daily routine, long before he even tried the onion trick. Before Harold discovered the onion trick, the very first change he made started right on his dinner plate with two humble greens that most folks overlook. Harold remembered his late wife always saying, "Green is the color of life." So, when he started his journey, he filled his plate with kale and spinach, not because they were trendy, but because they were powerful. Kale, rich in vitamin K, acted like a tiny guardian for his arteries, preventing dangerous plaque buildup. Meanwhile, its soluble fiber gently swept away bad cholesterol, almost like cleaning out old pipes. Spinach brought its magic, loaded with folate and nitrates that helped relax his blood vessels, lowering his blood pressure naturally. Together, they worked like a silent shield, protecting his heart with every bite. But Harold learned an important lesson: don't overcook them. Lightly sautéed with a bit of olive oil preserved their power, and, as he'd say with a smile, made them easier on my old teeth. This simple leafy duo became his daily foundation, long before the onion took center stage. But greens alone weren't enough. Harold needed something richer, something that would nourish his heart and balance his sugar. And that's when he discovered the quiet power of avocados. At first, Harold was skeptical. A fruit full of fat? How could this be healthy? But the more he read, the more he understood. Not all fats are the enemy. The creamy flesh of an avocado is packed with monounsaturated fats. This kind lowers harmful cholesterol while raising the good. For Harold, it meant relieving his tired arteries, allowing blood to flow more easily. But there was more. Avocados are loaded with potassium, easing tension in his blood vessels and checking his blood pressure. Surprisingly, these little green powerhouses helped Harold feel full longer, reducing those late-night snack cravings that once sabotaged his blood sugar. He began slicing half an avocado onto his morning eggs, or blending it into a simple smoothie. No complicated recipes, just real, whole food doing quiet work inside his body. And every time Harold ate it, he'd smile, thinking, who knew that something so creamy could protect my heart like armor? But Harold still had one more craving to conquer: his sweet tooth. Instead of cookies or pies, he found two tiny fruits that offered sweetness and powerful protection. Harold would open his freezer every morning and grab a small handful of wild blueberries. Their deep, rich color wasn't just pretty. It was a sign of something far more powerful: anthocyanins. These natural compounds acted like tiny firefighters inside his body, calming the silent inflammation that once threatened his arteries and blood sugar levels. The more he read, the more Harold realized these berries weren't just sweet, they were medicine. Alongside them, strawberries brought their gentle defense. They satisfied Harold's sweet tooth with a low glycemic index without causing dangerous blood sugar spikes. And their vitamin C content quietly supported his immune system, keeping his body strong. Harold often mixed both berries into his morning oatmeal, creating what he lovingly called "my daily shield." And as he watched his blood sugar stabilize and his cholesterol improve, he'd chuckle and say, "Who would have thought dessert could be part of the cure?" While fruits calmed the fire, Harold knew he needed something to strengthen his heart even further. And that's when these tiny, crunchy powerhouses came into his life. Every afternoon, Harold would reach into a small glass jar on his kitchen counter. Inside were his daily treasures: walnuts and almonds, At first glance, they seemed simple, but inside each handful was a complex blend of nutrients quietly working behind the scenes. The walnuts delivered precious omega-3 fatty acids, easing inflammation inside his arteries like a gentle oiling of old hinges. His stiff, tired vessels gradually became more flexible, allowing blood to flow smoothly. The almonds, packed with magnesium, worked on another front, helping his body use insulin more effectively and steadying his blood sugar after meals. The combination created a subtle balance inside his body, one he could feel in his energy, sleep, and mood. But Harold was careful. No salted, roasted, or sugar-coated nuts. Just plain, raw goodness. A small handful after lunch, enough to nourish without overdoing. He often smiled and said to Buddy, "You don't need a pharmacy when nature puts medicine in your palm." Even with his new habits, Harold still faced one stubborn challenge, those sharp sugar spikes after dinner. But hidden beneath the soil, nature offered him a gentle solution. Harold had always loved his starchy sides, mashed potatoes, dinner rolls, biscuits, but they often left his blood sugar soaring like a roller coaster. That's when his nutritionist gently suggested, "Harold, let's trade those for sweet potatoes and yams." Unlike their white cousins, sweet potatoes and yams broke down slowly inside his body. Their rich fibers and complex carbs allowed sugar to enter his bloodstream gently, giving his pancreas a break and keeping his energy steady long into the evening. But Harold noticed something else, too. After a few weeks, his waistline began shrinking slightly, and his morning fasting sugar started settling into healthier ranges. He experimented, sometimes roasting cubes with a sprinkle of cinnamon, other times mashing them with olive oil. Simple, comforting, and healing. As he sat down for dinner with Buddy at his feet, Harold often whispered, "Turns out the best medicine sometimes grows underground." But Harold wasn't done yet. His heart still needed stronger protection. And that's when he welcomed a tiny, ancient warrior into his kitchen. Garlic. Harold always remembered his grandmother crushing garlic cloves on a wooden board, filling the kitchen with that sharp, comforting aroma. Now, years later, he understood why. Inside each clove was allicin, nature's powerful compound that expanded his blood vessels, lowered his blood pressure, and kept his heart beating strong without extra strain. It was like opening clogged highways inside his body, allowing his blood to flow freely again. But Harold learned an old trick: crush it, then wait. By letting the minced garlic sit for 10 minutes before cooking, the allicin had time to activate, delivering maximum healing powerfully. He gently sautéed it with olive oil, added it to soups, or spread it over roasted vegetables. No fancy supplements, no expensive pills, just real food doing quiet miracles. Harold often chuckled as his blood pressure readings gradually drifted downward. Who would have thought such tiny cloves could stand guard over this old heart of mine? With his blood pressure easing and sugar more stable, Harold searched for one more simple habit, something small enough to hold in his hand, yet powerful enough to defend his heart each day. That habit came in the form of a crisp, shiny apple. Harold learned that inside the apple's skin lived pectin, a special kind of fiber that gently trapped cholesterol in his gut, preventing it from ever reaching his arteries. Over time, his cholesterol readings quietly improved without the side effects of pills. But that wasn't all. The apple's skin carried quercetin, a natural antioxidant that helped calm inflammation inside his blood vessels, protecting their fragile linings from silent damage that often leads to heart attacks or strokes. Each afternoon after walking Buddy, Harold would sit by the porch, slice a fresh Fuji apple, and enjoy it slowly, savoring its taste and purpose. He always left the skin on, remembering the simple wisdom, "The good stuff's in the peel, Harold." Harold smiled as autumn leaves fell gently around him, knowing that small daily choices were quietly rewriting his future. By now, Harold's plate was starting to look like a little garden, but there were still 2 more green defenders ready to guard his heart and blood vessels like quiet sentinels. Broccoli and Brussels sprouts, once the vegetables Harold pushed aside as a boy, had now become trusted allies in his daily meals. Sulforaphane was hidden inside their tiny florets and leaves, a remarkable compound that helped his body detoxify, repair damaged cells, and protect his arteries from inflammation. Harold often thought of sulforaphane like a gentle cleanup crew, sweeping away what years of poor habits had left behind. At first, the bitter taste of Brussels sprouts reminded him of childhood dinners. But with a bit of olive oil, garlic, and a dash of lemon, they transformed into something comforting and delicious. Harold learned that these cruciferous vegetables didn't just protect his heart and lowered his risk of certain cancers, supported liver function, and even sharpened his aging mind. Sitting down each evening with his warm plate of roasted greens, Harold would often whisper with a grin, "Who knew these little trees could guard me better than any medicine cabinet?" But Harold knew his body also needed protection from something even harder to see: silent inflammation that quietly damages the heart over time. And that's where citrus came in. Harold would start his day each morning with a simple ritual: a warm glass of lemon water. That slight squeeze of lemon delivered vitamin C straight into his bloodstream, fueling his body's natural healing and protecting his arteries from oxidative stress. But lemons weren't working alone. Oranges, eaten whole with juicy pulp, brought healing gifts. The soluble fiber inside each segment slowed down sugar absorption, keeping Harold's blood sugar stable long after breakfast. Harold had learned that drinking orange juice wasn't the same. Years earlier, his wife served him a big glass of juice every morning, sweet, refreshing, but loaded with sugar. He smiled, knowing that eating the whole fruit was the wiser path. As the sun rose over Kansas, Harold would sit on his porch, sipping his lemon water, finishing his orange, and whisper, "Nature has her own quiet pharmacy. You just have to listen." Even with all his new habits, Harold still faced one daily enemy: morning sugar spikes. But one small bowl each morning quietly turned into his strongest defense. That bowl was filled with old-fashioned oatmeal. Not the sugary instant packets from the store, but real, hearty oats Harold soaked overnight. Inside those tiny grains lived beta-glucans, powerful soluble fibers that formed a gel inside his gut, slowing down the absorption of sugars and fats. Each spoonful acted like a filter, keeping his blood sugar steady and gently sweeping away bad cholesterol before it could settle into his arteries. Harold often added his wild blueberries and a sprinkle of crushed walnuts on top, creating a quiet symphony of protection with every bite. In just a few weeks, he noticed something remarkable. His morning sugar readings dropped, his doctor smiled, and Harold felt more energy throughout the day. He often told Buddy, "It's funny, old friend, how a simple bowl of oatmeal can build a shield stronger than any prescription." But Harold still wanted to strengthen his body's core, his muscles, his metabolism, his energy, and that's when he turned to two tiny powerhouses hiding in his pantry. Black beans and lentils became Harold's quiet champions. Packed with plant-based protein, they helped Harold maintain his muscle strength, something many seniors lose over time. But even more importantly, their rich soluble fibers slowed down carbohydrate digestion, keeping his blood sugar from spiking wildly after meals. Harold learned these legumes offered steady, slow-burning energy, unlike white rice or pasta. He added black bean salads and warm lentil soups for cozy dinners to his lunches. The benefits went beyond sugar control. The antioxidants inside, like anthocyanins, soothed his inflamed blood vessels. At the same time, the iron, magnesium, and potassium strengthened his heart and kept his blood pressure balanced. As Harold stirred his simmering lentil stew on cool autumn evenings, he often smiled and said to Buddy, "Funny how something so simple can keep this old engine running smooth." But Harold wasn't just thinking about his heart or his sugar anymore. As the years passed, he wanted to protect something even more precious: his mind. That's when red grapes, with their rich purple skins, became part of Harold's evening routine. Inside each tiny grape was resveratrol, a powerful antioxidant that did double duty, protecting his arteries from plaque buildup and keeping his brain sharp. Studies have shown that resveratrol improves blood flow to the heart and the brain, supporting memory, focus, and clear thinking as Harold ages. He always ate the grapes whole, skin and all. Never juiced, never stripped of their fiber, just as nature made them. The flavonoids inside worked quietly to calm inflammation and strengthen his blood vessels. Over time, Harold noticed fewer senior moments. Names came easier and thoughts stayed clearer. Harold often said softly as he watched the evening sun dip below the Kansas fields, enjoying his small handful of grapes. "Not just for my heart, Buddy, but for the stories I still want to remember." And finally, the little discovery that tied everything together. The simple kitchen trick that most doctors never told Harold about. It started with a dusty old article Harold found in the back of a farmer's almanac. A recipe combining red onions, turmeric, and olive oil. Curious and with little to lose, he gave it a try. He sliced one red onion thin, watching the vibrant purple rings fall into the pan. A tablespoon of extra virgin olive oil warmed gently. As the onion softened, he sprinkled a teaspoon of turmeric, added a pinch of black pepper, and at the very end, a splash of apple cider vinegar. This simple sauté wasn't just tasty, it was powerful. The quercetin from the onions worked alongside the curcumin and turmeric to calm inflammation. At the same time, the olive oil's healthy fats protected his arteries. Harold made it 3 times a week, serving it over vegetables, grains, or whole grain toast. After just 2 months, his doctor raised an eyebrow. His blood sugar had stabilized, his cholesterol dropped, and his energy returned. Sitting at his table one evening, Harold smiled and whispered, "Turns out, buddy, sometimes the best medicine isn't locked away in a pharmacy, it's sizzling right on the stove." As Harold sat on his porch, Buddy resting at his feet, he couldn't help but reflect on how far he'd come. Not through magic pills, but through quiet, simple choices. Harold's story isn't unique because of some secret cure. It's powerful because of the small, consistent steps he took. Bit by bit, meal by meal, he gave his body what it quietly needed. Healing foods, steady habits, and a little patience. From leafy greens and creamy avocados, to sweet berries and crunchy nuts. To warm beans, hearty oats, vibrant grapes, and finally, that humble onion trick. Together, they formed his shield against diabetes, heart disease, and the slow wear of time. His numbers improved, yes, but more importantly, Harold reclaimed his energy, clarity, and joy, a straightforward meal at a time. And now, my friend, it's your turn. Start small. Maybe add that morning lemon water or that handful of walnuts. These little choices can rewrite your story like they did for Harold. If this video gave you even one helpful idea, please drop a 1 in the comments. It truly means a lot. Don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and share this with someone you care about. More simple wisdom is waiting, and I can't wait to share it with you.